All right, here we are. Welcome, everyone. Hello, Megan Amberson. We'll get to that in a second. The origins of the name. Thank you, everyone, for joining this new Campfire edition. I think it's not in the title, but I've seen somewhere that we are at 68. I cannot believe that. And I've grown old over the multiple Campfire shows that I have to wear those glasses now. I was just trying to put them off. But no, I have to keep the glasses now. Um, if you're watching this, thank you. You're probably on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn, and as you're there, you can ask your question. This is a live show. We have Qubit here. Oh, we'll talk about qubits, won't we, Megan? Um, and so ask your question either for me or Megan, and we'll be happy to answer them. So, uh, Megan, thank you very much for joining the show. You and I have known each other for a couple of years now. The audience may know you as well. They may have seen you online in our YouTube channel or TikTok ads. Would you mind introducing yourself briefly? And then I'd love to know what's the origin of this alias, Amberson?
Well, hi guys. Thank you so much, Ludo, for having me here. You know, I love Nucamp so much, and I've known you for quite some time now. And I think you're a great personality. So, honestly, I'm very happy to be here with you. Brief introduction. Okay, so my name is Megan, but I go by Amberson, and a lot of people call me Amber. And I am a recent grad with a bachelor's degree in computer science from Florida International University. And just a little bit of about me is during that time I was very involved with like organizations and clubs and doing contracts and um, I'm like the former vice president of a organization called IARC, and it specializes in robotics and automation in construction. And so I focused a lot on artificial intelligence, machine learning, and software engineering in general. I was involved with another organization called Google Developers Club and UPE, which is now, I believe, in it, but they're both very computer science oriented. Um, and during that time, I also studied a lot of quantum computing, and I was very involved in, let's say, software engineering. So it's like a little bit of a brief background, but origins of my username. So fun fact, I did create it. I didn't generate it or anything. I know a lot of people tend to generate their usernames, but I genuinely came up with mine. And it's my
Oh,
game.
so it's not inspired by, I mean, it's not a name of a fictional character in, in some comic book or anime. It's actually, yeah, you created it from scratch.
I don't even know. Like if there's a comic book out there with the name, I don't know. I just remember when I created it, it was based on a poem that I wrote a long time ago. Because before doing computer science, I was very big on writing poetry, and I wrote a poem, and the poem was
Really?
called Ember of the Sun. So what I did was I joined Ember and Sun. So I kind of made it a little bit unique,
Yeah. Well, I
and I
confirm. I mean, when you Google Amberson, I think this is you, right?
yeah.
Everywhere, right? All of that is you. So in terms of search engine optimization, that name is gold.
Yeah,
Uh,
I think so too. I mean, I wanted to change it a little bit so it has a unique factor. I'm sure someone has the name Ember with Sun, like a regular
the,
SUN.
the next one is this one. Cool. Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
And actually now I see a couple of people creating accounts with Ember Sun and stuff. So now I'm like, no, they got it for me. They have to have. I don't
Yeah.
know if it exists prior anywhere else. So
Yeah, I think you could actually try to trademark it in some ways and protect it so that there's really only 1% forever. I want to say hi to Victoria. Thank you for joining. And then Dwayne is here with plenty of questions already. So we get to your question, Dwayne, in a few seconds. I love to start with the beginning with my guests. And for you, really, since you went through a computer science bachelor degree, it's really asking you why, like what brought you to computer science in the first place? Was there any hesitation when you decided to go that route? Uh, Tell us about that journey. When did you decide? How did you get there?
So for me, it was my senior year of high school, and they had a class on computer science, just teaching a programming language, and I believe it was Python at the time, but it was full. And I
Oh,
really wanted to get involved with computer science, but I couldn't take the course. So I self-taught. I taught myself
mhm.
for a year, and I did Python 3. And I did something called the 100 Days of Code Challenge, which consists of the person, the individual, doing 100 days of code.
Mhm.
And I oriented myself towards project based learning. A lot of what Nucamp does is project based. So I did the same thing too back then. And I remember I got a book, and the book was like the huge, kind of like textbook style book. And it was Crash Course to Python by Eric Matz. And I decided to read the entire book, and I was hooked. I absolutely loved it. I loved how difficult the language, like learning programming from scratch, is. And it was very project based. So I did projects from that textbook too. And I ended up loving it. My biggest inspiration always when I was a kid was my dad. My dad, without the title, is a civil engineer, and he has his own company. And I remember always going to work with him on Take Your Daughter to Work Day and stuff. And he's been my inspiration for a long time. So that was the reason why I knew I wanted to get involved with engineering or something related to STEM. But that's kind of how I jumped into the field.
That's crazy. So you couldn't join the formal classroom, and so for a year you said you learn on your own using a book. Did you use any online resources like online courses as well, or was it pretty much you, the computer, Python, and a book?
For me, in the very beginning, it was the book, because the book is very, very detail oriented,
Hmm.
and it is very explanatory. It doesn't really need, it will take you to the outside sources that you can use in the book. But obviously, of course, I used external sources too, to learn, because a lot of times when you're learning by yourself, there is that lack of accountability. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
And
yeah,
that can leave someone to be a little non-consistent. So it's important to keep yourself accountable. For me, I had to get a mentor. My mentor is Daniel Rad. He's a senior software engineer at Oracle, and he's fantastic. And he helped me in the very beginning learn basically Python. And
gotcha.
he provided a lot of sources for me. So honestly, it's just keeping yourself consistent and accountable. And sometimes you need that extra support.
I was going to say, because learning on your own for a full year, I mean, a lot of people are going to be able to do that for a month, but very quickly, life is going to get in the way and other priorities are going to prop up. And it's very hard to stay committed for that long. So having a mentor makes a ton of sense. You've mentioned, so there's Mario is asking this question here. Could you share the resource links you used? Can you tell me the name of the book again? I'm going to try to find it on
Yes.
Amazon and share the link.
It's called Python Crash Course by Eric Matz, and the way you spell Matz is
I got it.
Matthes, I believe.
I got it.
Fantastic author. I've spoken to him before. He
Oh, yeah.
is excellent. I know it's just the opportunities to get networking is amazing. This guy is fantastic, and his book was just exceptional. So I recommend that book if you're starting off learning Python, because it's gonna teach you everything from even installing the language on your computer from scratch
Hmm.
to using it in something like data visualization or game development. So it's an excellent, excellent book, and I highly, highly recommend it. Other sources that I used was
Is that the
Udemy.
one? And Under Days of Code as well? Can you see it?
That's a hashtag now. Back then, it was
Okay.
like a challenge. So I don't
Mm.
know if there's a website for it, but if there is, that's fantastic. But yeah, yeah, and
Yes. Yeah, I mean, when you do a search on 100 Days of Code, you see, yeah, there's a lot of website or that have kind of leveraged the term to bring people like Udemy has 100 Days of Code. Yeah, it's actually hard to know which one is the actual one.
when I started off, it was just a challenge and it
Yeah,
was
yeah,
just a hashtag. Now people have marketed from it too, but and
yeah,
people
yeah.
use it as a guide. Like you can start your 100 days of challenge here, and I think it's fantastic. But The idea overall is you can collect from any source really that's like credible, and start your 100 days of code
Yeah,
challenge from
great.
any point in your life.
So let's actually jump in time and go back to what you just said about building a network and how helpful it has been for you. You've just graduated, and you're on the job hunt yourself, I understand. And I know, and we'll get back to that, but you're pretty active on Twitter, and you've been discussing the importance of networking on Twitter lately, in how it really helps getting a job. Do you mind sharing a little bit more about how you went about that? I mean, I would just say the simple fact that you didn't just read the book, you contacted the author, like, how do you have this confidence to kind of say, hey, I'm going to reach out to the author of the book, and I'll actually have a conversation, and maybe that's going to become part of my network, or mentor? Like, how do you go about that? How do you do that? I know it's something that a lot of people are struggling with.
I believe confidence is gained over time, and you can't really expect yourself to gain confidence without putting it into practice. For me, what started off as, because I was in the very beginning very shy, very introverted, as a lot of people are in the field, I
Mhm.
realized that networking is not just about exposing myself in my work, but it's about gaining opportunities and creating important contacts. So, just another very great example that happened to me recently when I was learning to program. I was recommended a book called The Pragmatic Programmer. It's a very, very popular book in the field. And I created a space on X, on Twitter, discussing it. And the author randomly joined.
No way.
He randomly joined, and he spoke on it. I gave him permission to speak on the space and everything, and he discussed the book, and he discussed some of like um, good coding practices and tactics, and I was completely shocked. But it wouldn't have been possible without me putting myself out there and networking. And so I had during like my college years, and now a lot of people, a lot of companies contacting me to recruit me through LinkedIn and through my email, because I wasn't afraid to put myself out there and network. And there is such an importance for people who are trying to break into the tech market to build in public,
Yeah.
because the best thing that could happen to you, the best I guess, position that you can be in is for those companies that you're interested in to contact you instead. And with how the market is right now, it can be very difficult to just apply with the resume online and expect to hear. But when you build in public and network yourself, you get those opportunities coming towards you. So I think it's best that way anyway. So it's just breaking the ice and starting from somewhere.
That's great. And I'm showing your Twitter account here. You
Very
have
spicy. Just kidding.
about 11,000 followers. Um, so, what do you say to people like me who have a level of insecurity in exposing yourself the way you're doing it on Twitter, on Instagram, on YouTube? Myself, and I think a lot of people that are shy about, talking online, or doing, having hosting a next channel, or web or event, is not knowing exactly what to say, and having a fear that, are we really going to say something that's interesting to anyone? Like, are we going to be the boring person out there that's just, talking into the void, and nobody's going to care about? uh, how do you how do you overcome that? And did you feel that way maybe at first? Like, did you feel like, did you wonder, what am I going to say, or yeah, how did that happen for you, or not?
Um, I was taught by my parents to really get out of your comfort zone, because that's the only way that you'll succeed in whatever it is that you're doing. Is, whether you're visiting a new household, you're meeting new friends, or you're joining a new job, or you're in pursuit of a new job, consistently day by day, you are getting out of your comfort zone. And you have to ask yourself the level of uncomfortable you have to be to do it, right? But for me, what helped me was to realize something. You don't have to host a space right away. You don't have to jump in and speak to people live. You don't have to do that as a first step.
Mhm.
Breaking the ice can be you discussing a topic that you like by yourself, and nobody's watching you at that moment. So you should
Mhm.
be comfortable in, for example, writing about a specific framework or a specific tool that you're working on. And in whatever stage that you are in and in your tech journey, just write about it. That's the point of building in public, is you don't have to be a certain level of expert or a certain credential. You don't have to meet a certain credential in order to start exposing your work, because what recruiters are mostly interested in is they want to see your progress and how eloquently you are discussing your train of thought or your critical thinking. And this is very important to them, because once you break into the field, once you start working for a company as a software engineer, for example, you're going to have to be working and discussing in teams.
Mhm.
So you have to be very team based oriented. And the best way for recruiters to really know if you're team based oriented is the way that you're discussing your work in public. um, it was hard for me at the beginning because I felt like I was going to get corrected every step of the way. Like, people that are way smarter than me are going to correct me. But then I realized, for me, it was like the rubber ducky effect.
Yeah.
When you sit down with the rubber ducky, do you know that one?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's yeah, yeah, yeah. I know it, and it was remind. I mean, if anyone watched the latest John Wick movie, the people were talking about that. The Robert, was it? No, not John Wick. Sorry, the latest Matrix movie. I think one of those where Keanu Reeves has the rubber duck behind, right next to him. And anyway, yeah,
Yeah. So it's the rubber ducky watching and hearing you, right? But in the tech field, it's you buy a rubber ducky or even a stuffed animal, whatever it is, and you put it in front of you in your desk. And what you do is you explain to the rubber ducky what you're learning. And you try to be as eloquent and professional as if the rubber ducky does not understand tech
that's
lingo
right.
or doesn't know what you're talking about. So for me, when I'm, for example, discussing something like Python 3 in front of the camera, I consider it like my rubber ducky. I'm trying to explain to it the best of my knowledge based on my research, based on what I learned. And of course, I'm going to make mistakes. But the best thing about it is that you learn from your mistakes, even if other people are pointing it out, and you're being noticed online. You're being noticed by people who want to hire developers like
Yeah.
you.
So I have a story on this specifically. I want to go back to how you and I, or you and Nucamp, came to collaborate. And it was, I think, 3 years ago now, maybe 2 years ago. And
Yeah.
I stumbled upon your YouTube channel, and I'm guessing that's the very beginning of you, building or creating in public. And I stumbled upon your Python videos for 3 years ago. Um, and I mean, your channel was quite small at the time, uh, but you're right. It's you never know who's going to pay attention, and and there's no fear of being judged. But for me, when I saw your video at the time, I was blown away by the level of entertainment value that you were bringing to those videos. They were witty, funny, but technically really good, and going in depth into those concepts. The production value that you had on creating those videos was amazing, actually. So it really showed a lot of creativity, and I was like, geez, I mean, I don't know if if Amberson, I knew nothing about you at the time, but if Amberson will be open to a collaboration, and do videos for us. But that was, for me, that was very much, seeing you create in public. Were you at that time? Were you doing that 1 year of learning Python by yourself? Was it that moment in time that you were talking about?
If you're asking if it was that moment in time when I created the Python
Yeah.
videos, I had, by the time I made, for example, that first one that says learn to code in Python, I knew exactly what I was talking about, because I made sure that I made the video and edited it and make sure I was accurate. Because if I'm teaching someone something, I have to have some sort of credential to it. Now, there has been times where I have discussed things online when I was learning Python, and I've been corrected on, and I've been told, no, this is a better way to say it. This is the right lingo, the right vocabulary to use
Mhm.
in this situation. So I learned a lot. And yes, during that time, I was becoming proficient in Python, but I had an intermediate understanding of it.
Yeah, gotcha. There's a question here from Sid, um, asking, so if you narrow it down to practical ways of doing it, is it just about posting, I mean, posting in discussions or writing articles? Like, is it that, or do you think it's also other things?
Well, thank you, Sid, so much for the question. I think this is a great question. There's platforms that allow you to be a part of a discussion that's very tech oriented. For example, LinkedIn has articles where they'll invite you to discuss on certain topics. So they'll tell you questions such as, what are the best coding practices? And so you write
Mhm.
down your answer. So write down to the best of your ability how you would answer it. But before you post it, you want to check online to make sure that what you're saying is accurate. And as soon as you feel comfortable and you feel that it is accurate enough, that it's good, then you can post what you're discussing. And recruiters are on LinkedIn and they will see your discussion and they will be interested in you depending on what your answers are. So, yes, you can post on discussions, you can answer on articles. Um, you can also reply on tweets in X that are related to what you're discussing. There's a lot of discussions on, for example, programming languages that you can retweet and put a quote on, and people will see that in your account. So there's many different ways. You don't have to post a video. You
Yeah,
can definitely start with a discussion online.
usually starting with contributing to a
Contributing, exactly.
conversation, right? That's easier than coming up with your own unique content. I want to echo what you just said. I think just this morning I saw someone on Reddit coding bootcamp, talk about how they got a job, and people um, were like wondering if it was real or not.
Mhm.
But then that person went into the details of how I think it's a she, Kali, um, Hack Reactor grad, and pretty much I'm not going to read everything, but pretty much said, "Hey, I actually got a job pretty fast, even in this terrible market." And when asked, she said, "Well, I was reached out to by a recruiter uh, because she had built a few projects. She posted." Uh, she's posted her experience and her journey on LinkedIn, so she kind of documented to your point exactly what you just said. You know, create in the open, and she commented. She discussed her journey. She was posting. I think if you read it, she was posting videos of her projects every week, like how well she was doing. And the person who hired her had noticed her on LinkedIn, and so it's really clear that in this current climate, if you're trying to get a job by applying to 400 job postings every week, you're doing it wrong. I mean, you could get lucky and it could work for you, but definitely it's going to take a little bit more and really a different approach to be noticed, and actually not have to apply to so many jobs to have someone just notice you and pick you out of a haystack a little bit.
Yeah, you know what it is? The market right now, before there was a really high demand for software engineers. I believe now there isn't such a high demand for software engineers because there's a lot of people coming in. And I love to kind of discuss how the market is right now, no matter how harsh it is, because when you acknowledge the state that we are in the market, you can strategize and come up with ways that you can stand out to these recruiters, to these people that are trying to hire. And what this person did was amazing because she explained. She said, "Well, I built projects. I exposed the work. So building in public.
Mhm.
I was discussing things on LinkedIn. She was obviously very social on LinkedIn, and that's like the biggest platform that you can be social in, where you'll get a lot of opportunities from. I've gotten recently a lot of opportunities in quantum science, which now that I graduated, I can actually finally go into doing full time in. And it was because I started discussing quantum computing in LinkedIn. And that's how I got a lot of the opportunities that I have right now. So now I'm in progress. So now I'm being reviewed, which is fantastic. But I wouldn't have gotten that opportunity or that amazing chance of having somebody contact me if it wasn't for me discussing what I'm talking about. It's not enough to apply with the resume, because if
Yeah.
you see the amount of people applying for one job posting, can be easily 3,000 people depending on the company. So what's the best thing you can do if you are going to apply online, which I think you should definitely? Don't just apply with your resume. Have an amazing cover letter to go with it. See if you can get recommendation letters from people that you've worked in. If you're a student here at Nucamp, the best thing you can do is after your courses or during your courses, if you're doing a great job, which you should be, you can definitely ask for a recommendation letter from your instructor, because that's going to help amplify your name. And then you submit those recommendation letters, and that's going to help you stand out from the applicants that are applying with just their resume. So I think it
Yeah, the
just
recommendation letter, not enough people are doing. Sometimes they reach out to me for a recommendation letter, and I'm like, well, I never really taught you directly, but so it's going to be a challenge. But definitely
yeah,
ask your instructor for that.
exactly.
Let
Not
me.
not Ludo. Ludo obviously is in the head of everything, but you need to have credibility from someone who actually worked with you as an individual.
So I want to go back because Wayne has been waiting for us to answer his question. So I want to make sure that we don't forget it. And you've been involved. I remember you and I talking about you dabbled into cybersecurity as well, right? Didn't you do some stuff in that space with red teaming, blue teaming, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe you can help with Dwayne's question. Bachelor degree in criminal justice and a master in public administration. Congrats. That's actually amazing. I don't have a computer science background. If I obtain certs like network and security plus, will my educational and my certs help even without a computer science degree? Answering interesting. So, yeah, how related is really the world of computer science with the world of cybersecurity in your mind? And do you need one to do the other?
So, well, I know he's discussing CompTIA and CompTIA certificates, CompTIA Plus certificates. Network Plus, Security Plus is amazing. If you can land a Security Plus certification, that is excellent, because the exams are very hard. And if
Mhm.
you land that certification, you are definitely going to have people interested. That kind of certification is very high level. So, yes, I do recommend that if you're trying to focus on maybe somewhere related to security, analyst or administration or something like cybersecurity or even security software engineer, I do recommend those. That's a great, great example. And I'm glad he mentioned it. And I believe so, cybersecurity with computer science. So I like to explain computer science as a tree, and the tree has tons of branches, right? And one of those branches is cybersecurity. And I believe there is a huge importance in security in whatever specialization you're in within computer science. You have to have some level of security knowledge. I do believe that. If you want to specialize in it, that's amazing. And I do recommend the certifications. Do you need a computer science degree to land a job in one of these specializations? No, you don't. We have modernized ourselves so much in society right now that having, for example, boot camp and then adding to that something like certifications, project-based work, things that you can show your recruiter that you've done in the camp too, can get you a job in tech. Because at the end of the day, it's not about you having a degree or not specifically in this field. It's about what you can showcase and you proving that you do have the knowledge and experience to enter a certain position.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And so it's interesting. You don't need to have an understanding, or you don't need to be a software engineer to be great at cybersecurity. The opposite, though, you want to understand cybersecurity to be a great software engineer, so that you don't create, software that are full of holes and things like that. Um,
Yeah. I mean, yeah, you have to have some sort of security knowledge and basic things like encryption,
yeah,
to be able to make sure that if you are executing a program, or let's say you're doing an application that requires you to have users interact with it, there does have to be security level.
Yeah,
something as simple as two-step verification. I know we're all very aware of two-step verification. Software engineers do work with that, and it doesn't have to be solely security. But if you do want to enter the security area, you do have to have computer science logic and fundamentals, of
that's
course.
right. And AI is bleeding into both areas. I mean, as AI is more and more prominent in generating cyber attacks, but also protecting you from cyber attacks. And of course, AI is impacting software engineering as well.
Yes.
Thank you. All right. I hope we answered your question, Dwayne. Let me see. All right. Well, Sid is asking another question. Can you give us some examples of discussion places on LinkedIn where we can write this post? Um, actually, I got one of those messages myself. Sometimes you're going to get an email from LinkedIn saying, "Hey, we've
Yes,
noticed you're an
exactly.
expert in that field. Do you mind answering those questions?" I don't know what triggers it,
I
honestly.
know what triggers it because
Oh, you
I
do?
recently found out. Yes, of course. So I used to be very social with my field in Instagram and X, but I
Yeah.
recently started working with LinkedIn. And the moment that I actually started posting on LinkedIn, LinkedIn does have an algorithm that will
Mm,
detect the kind of discussions that you're having in the platform, and it will suggest to you articles that it would like you to contribute to.
oh,
So
nice.
if you want to trigger the algorithm to go towards sending you specific articles related to what you discuss on LinkedIn, you need to start actually posting on
Gotcha.
LinkedIn. If you're not posting or communicating or commenting or anything, it's not going to give you anything because it's assuming that you are not wanting to interact in the first place. If you
Yeah.
want to trigger the algorithm, start posting.
Do you know if there's a dimension of how big is your network, how many people are following you, and things like that, or can you just start to produce content? I'm trying to find that email that I got. I think I I deleted it, which is bad.
You
Uh,
can email again eventually too for an
yeah, I
article
guess,
it
yeah.
wants you to contribute to. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think you have to reach a certain milestone or reach capability before they send you that? Do you have an idea?
No, I think it just depends on your interaction and your level
Mm,
of interaction. So maybe it could do with your engagement in the field in the platform. But I think it's just on what you're putting out there. If you're putting a lot of things out there that have to do with software engineering, it'll give you software engineering related topics. At least that's what happened to me. But I do believe there is a way to actually search these articles up and write a comment. I think with a simple search on LinkedIn articles to contribute,
yeah.
it will do it. Like these algorithms that they have in place are very high. So they will definitely orient towards whatever it is that you're searching.
And from a professional standpoint, the places really where your next boss is probably into is LinkedIn and Twitter/X, right? And so you're on both. Um, and how recent was it for you to be on X, and how did you get to 11,000 followers? Like, what was your any technique in particular? Was it just about contributing, posting original content?
I got to 11,000 followers in because I started off with like 100 followers because I had my account made in 2013. I
Yeah,
never used it.
yeah,
I got to 11,000 followers. Sorry, in like 4 months.
that's
Like,
crazy.
yeah, and what I did was a few things. You have to understand that Twitter is definitely a platform where you can build in public because there's a lot
Mhm.
of developer oriented communities there, especially in Twitter in comparison to like Instagram. It's a great platform for that. You'll get to socialize and network a lot there, and there's a lot of recruiters there. The tactic that I used is I was just very open with my personality there because the best kind of engagement you can get on Twitter and X is to really bring out your personality. Everyone on Twitter, on Instagram, wherever it is, they're teaching computer science related stuff. So it's not as unique as you taking what you're learning in your
Yeah.
current state and then bringing out your part of how you interpreted it and then posting it. There has to be some sort of unique factor to your tweets.
Yeah, and speaking of uniqueness, I don't know if I'm going to be able to find it. Well, I guess in
In
your,
highlights, there's the really big
how
ones.
did you think about the mustache? That one was So what was that about? I almost, for this stream, I was like, maybe I'm gonna shave and just keep the mustache and see if you'll do the same.
Actually, that specific tweet you're on actually shows some of my best tweets with engagements if you want to see them.
Yeah,
Yeah. So the joke is that there's a lot of um, I guess famous developers. There's a lot of them that stream on Twitch and
yeah.
they do YouTube and they're here on X. There's a lot of them, and they all have the same kind of mustache. So the joke is it's the mustache. So
You
it's
were.
going to give me successful deployments. Yes.
Did you find that one tweet in particular kind of raised your visibility, and after that tweet you got, I don't know, 1,000 new followers or things like that? Did you have like best hit just this one maybe?
I did have one, and actually, I'll guide you to it because it's very easy. So scroll all the way up. You're
Yeah,
gonna see it's actually a great tweet too. Scroll all the way up,
yeah.
and it didn't even get that much engagements. Go to highlights,
Highlights.
yes, and then you're gonna scroll down a little bit
Oh,
more. Oh yeah, that's on Nucamp. It's because
yeah, that's a new camp one. Oh, cool.
and
uh
then a little bit more. Scroll a little bit down
yeah,
more, a little bit more. That one, the one where you see the dev sticker in.
yeah.
So that one's the one where I asked
Okay.
a simple
Yeah.
question. All I asked, and that wasn't even one of my most popular engagement ones, but that's the one that I feel got people interested in my account. And I was just asking people for the best IDEs for something like C programming, because I wanted to start using C language more. And so I just asked. And so there was a lot of people that I guess were very well known in the field who
Yeah,
engaged.
that's
And
pretty cool.
so that's what happened. And a lot of people got interested there.
And you really engaged in that conversation. You didn't just post the question, made the post, and then left it there. I mean, I can tell here. You replied to every one of them, uh, and it's a mix of posting original content, but really replying to a bunch of content as well.
Yeah,
And
it's
again,
networking. It's
yeah, that's right.
networking, like talking back.
Yeah, awesome. All right, so let's. This is fascinating. Um, well, Qubit. Let's talk about this. I have a few tech questions for you. Uh, One of them is quantum computing. So you've tried many, I would say, software engineering areas. You're deep into Java. You love the language. You've done Python. You've done cybersecurity, um, and right now you're really set on quantum computing. Why is that? What fascinates you, or why would you want to go there versus every other places that you can go in software engineering?
So like you said, I wanted to pick a good field, so I've tried almost everything, at least a little bit of everything, to see which one piqued my interest more. And during my time at FIU, my university, um, quantum computing is not very known. There isn't a lot of classes. I don't even think there's majors in most universities for it. But for the first time ever, FIU came out with a special topics course, and it was on quantum computing. And you had to apply and be picked to get into that course. So I was one out of 15 students in that class. So it was very project
Yeah.
based. The instructor was very on top of you. As you can imagine, we were only 15 students. And that class really piqued my interest in quantum. Um, what really, really piqued my interest is the amount of times that I've heard quantum, the word.
Yeah.
I think like before I even knew what quantum computing was, I think you hear quantum anywhere.
It's a
You hear
mystic. It's a mystic type of concept, right? Like you talk
it.
about it, you've never seen it.
Like Oppenheimer or like
Yeah,
any Marvel movie. Yeah, of course you hear quantum everywhere. It's just kind of like
yeah,
it's out there. But I love computing a lot, and so and computers, and so kind of merging the two concepts of like
yeah.
physics and computers. I really liked it. I liked the idea. So I went into the class open minded, seeing if I was interested. And I learned what quantum computing is. So if you'd like to know what quantum computing is, I'll tell you right now. So
So, well, let's start. Yes, definitely. Why did I mean, qubit
yes,
is
I'll explain qubits right now
go
too.
for it.
Yeah.
Go for it. Explain qubit and tell us about what is quantum computing, and tell us if you've ever seen a quantum computer in action.
So I've worked with simulators of quantum computers, but I wish I could be exposed to a quantum computer. I think I will be very soon if I get this job.
Mhm.
So we'll see. It's a laboratory in Los Alamos, so let's see how it goes there. But we don't know. But maybe I'll be exposed to one
And
very,
hold
very
on,
soon.
the Los Alamos where Oppenheimer built the bomb, right? Is that the same Los Alamos?
I believe so. Yeah, the city.
Yeah. Okay.
And Breaking Bad. I heard the
Oh, is
city
it?
there. I haven't seen
Okay.
Breaking Bad, but I
Yeah.
heard it's all there. Yeah,
Okay.
it's a cool national laboratory over there.
Mhm.
We'll see. We don't know,
It
but
must be the same.
okay.
Yeah, it must be
So
the same. Okay. So what is a qubit?
well, you have to understand what quantum computing is, and I'll very, very briefly explain it. So you want to think of a computer, right? A normal computer, and above that computer is a supercomputer, right? A supercomputer. It can process data fast, and above that is a quantum computer. Okay, so quantum computers work with something called qubits, and a normal computer will work with zeros and ones. That's binary, right? But with quantum computers, they work with qubits, which is zeros and ones, and both zeros and ones simultaneously at the same time. And this allows quantum computers to perform complex calculations, very complex algorithms, more efficiently and faster than any classical computer for certain types of problems, right? Such as things related to cryptography or drug discovery or optimizing tasks. So it's think of it as a super computer. And qubits are that it's zeros and ones and zeros and ones
At the same
simultaneously.
time.
That's why it's very complex. It's a very quantum computing has a very deep learning curve. That's how I explain it.
And I mean, the biggest companies in the world, Microsoft, Google, are in the space of quantum computing. And um,
Google is a big one right now.
exactly, I was going to go there. So Google, there are images of Google's. There it goes. So so that's when if you project yourself back in time, before the personal computer, right? You had mainframes, and Bill Gates was envisioning that one time that those big computers, mainframes, were going to land onto your desk and become a personal computer. It feels like we're kind of that place with quantum computers. Like this is one here, right? This is one quantum computer in Google's labs,
Yeah.
right? Which is crazy, and I shouldn't have clicked on it. Um, and so what you're saying is you've been able to experience quantum computing via simulations. You're kind of simulating that concept of having, a qubit, for example. Um, what? So
That's the real thing right there.
yeah, that's a real thing right there. What?
Yeah.
What is it used for? Like, should we think of it like, hey, we're going to play even better games in the future thanks to quantum computings, or what is it going to be used for?
So quantum computing is going to be used in a lot of different areas, and I believe in the future it's going to be used in every area just to compute things at a more advanced level. But I can give you an example if you like of how quantum computers are being used now.
Yeah.
Um,
So they are being used now. There's actually application today, and quantum. Okay, cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, it is. It's definitely so quantum computers were exposed to us a long time ago, but it's being more exposed now than ever because a lot of new research is coming out. So it's coming out to the light right now because we've advanced so much in the field.
Mhm.
But let me give you a very maybe brief example of quantum computing of how it's being used right now. So there's a lot of current computational methods, right, that tend to be a little slow or ineffective in certain things. And quantum computing really is the solution to that problem. So, an example is in cryptography. Quantum computers can break certain codes efficiently.
Yeah.
Okay. And many security systems rely on the difficulty of something that's called factoring large numbers, right? Or solving certain mathematical problems. Okay.
Mhm.
And that, um, that are very, very intense. They're computationally intense.
And they're usually mathematical bound, right? It's a lot of
Very much.
mathematics calculations.
Yeah.
You're really looking for that, giant CPU in a way that's going to calculate a ton of things at once.
Yeah, exactly. It's a very fast processing computer, right? And in comparison to classical computers, quantum computers don't have these specific problems. They will compute things faster because quantum computers deal with a lot of mathematics, obviously, but a lot of physics components.
Mhm,
So, like, what makes quantum computers very unique and solve problems that are found, for example, in cryptography, certain things in cryptography, is quantum algorithms. There's quantum algorithms that are different. They're different from a classical computer's algorithm.
mhm.
And that's why I believe quantum computing is the future, because to put in a very non-technical lingo way, it's a very, very, very advanced
Yeah.
computer.
Isn't it super scary as well? I freaked out last summer when a new superconductor was announced, LK99, and it has been debunked and it's not there yet. But at that moment in time, everybody was saying that that type of superconductor was going to make quantum computer possible at greater scale, and it was really going to make huge advances in microtransistors, and so all of a sudden quantum computers will really be performing and enabled.
Yeah.
And that plus AI coming to us as well, and knowing how quantum computers can really break any cryptography,
Yeah.
it felt like the end of the world in a way. Like if all those things come together at the same time, overnight almost, right? You could have the whole internet that breaks because all of a sudden HTTPS is not secure anymore, and you cannot trust any. And so, how do you how do you think through that? I mean, especially being in Los Alamos potentially and having to wonder, okay, am I going to really build that thing that could doom the whole civilization? Do you have those existential concerns or not?
I think there's a lot of things that society has accustomed itself to that doesn't like that. In the beginning, it was very dangerous, but it just depends on the way that you use it. And obviously, with quantum computing, there has to be restrictions to it, just like with
Mhm.
artificial intelligence. Companies
Yeah.
need to restrict certain things. Artificial intelligence, AI can do a lot of things right now that are highly inappropriate, like take a picture and then use it for malintent. But think of it as like a knife, right? And my dad explained this to me too. Think of it as a knife. A knife is used to what? To cut food, to cut certain things. You use it to cut a steak to eat it, right? But a knife can be used for much more malintent. But it depends on the way that you use it. And we have laws that enforce that if you use a knife for malintent, you're going to jail. The same thing is the same concept. You can apply it for things like artificial intelligence and quantum computing. Obviously, it is being used in a horrible way, but that's why there's a lot of regulations and policies that are being in place to reduce or try to eliminate as much as we can people using it the wrong way. Elon Musk has discussed artificial intelligence before and how if you can't beat them, join them, basically, right? Because there's a lot of selfish companies out there that will use artificial intelligence in a malintended way because they'll make a lot of bank from it. But Elon believes in using it for good and giving it policies and regulations so that people can use artificial intelligence to simplify their life, to
Mhm.
simplify tasks, but definitely not to hurt anyone. And I believe that's the approach that we should have also with quantum computing. It's a very advanced computer. There's a lot of things that can be done with it, like there is security threats to it. You can definitely break into anyone's system or device with it, but there just has to be code of conducts, you know?
And progress is inevitable, right? I mean, we're seeing it with AI. Like even if there was even if the government of the United States wanted to shut down the progress made in AI, there would be no way of actually doing that. You cannot stop progress and innovation. You just have to adapt to it.
Accommodate,
And we
exactly.
hope for the best as well. That we're going to be smart enough as a civilization to not destroy ourselves. But yeah, see, there's an interesting question here, and you know what? I'm actually super surprised that we have a student with a PhD in physics which is great.
Amazing.
But do you think, I mean, what's the relationship between quantum physics and quantum computing?
Yeah. So a lot of quantum computing algorithms are based on physics equations and physics math, right? So that's what really brings out quantum computers. I mean, think of it like this: quantum in itself is physics and it is purely science. And then bring into that computing, it's a merge of both. If you have a PhD in physics, Sid, this is a great question, by the way. If you have a PhD in physics, you can definitely go into quantum computing, because much of what is discussed in quantum computing is the combination of physics, and physics has the combination of math. So you're dealing with things like the human anatomy. We definitely do have structure of biology in it, but also the mathematical portion, sorry, are like matrix graphs, right? And transitions like Ludo explained earlier. So yes, the short answer is yes,
Yeah.
you definitely can.
All right. I want to talk to you about, well, some interest, just frivolous questions in a way. What is your favorite language and why?
Oh my God. The irony is that I taught Python 3 in YouTube, and only Python 3, but that's not my favorite language now. I think with time, my taste in programming languages has changed, and for different reasons. But my favorite language right now is Java. Java is my favorite language. I enjoy it because of its versatility in the industry. I really like its platform independence, and I love certain ways that they deal with memory management. One of them is an automatic garbage collection, right? So I just like the way that Java handles certain things. It's very user friendly when it comes to multi-threading support. Um, and I think it's not that I prefer the language over others. It's just that I work with it a little bit more. And I just think Java is one of those languages that is a pretty good first programming language in my
Well,
belief.
it's and is it still true that computer science at universities and colleges is mainly taught using Java as a reference?
At least here in the US, yes. I've seen a pattern in Florida of
Mhm.
universities using Java as a first programming language, but I have seen other universities use C and C++.
C as well. Yeah, yeah. To just
Yeah.
yeah, because when you go through concept of creating, I learned programming using C, and I created my first object in C like years ago. Obviously,
C
yeah,
is great. I like C too. C is
yeah,
a
you
great.
do. Yeah, yeah, not so much. But I've noticed also it was a great way to bait the Java haters on Twitter for you, right? Uh,
Yeah, the thing is, there's a lot of like trolls on X, obviously, and so
yeah.
there's a meme about PHP and Java, right? People saying that PHP is the worst and Java, but a lot of people just use it because it's trending, and they don't really know why they don't like
Yeah,
it. They just want to do it for the engagements, and I've realized that people just they'll hate on Java because they feel they'll get more engagements like that. They're
yeah.
going for that X money. But Java is definitely a great language, and it's a great language if you want to work in the market right now, because even though there isn't such a high demand on software engineering as there was before, there's a pretty good demand on Java developers
Yeah.
in that specific language. And so I think it's a cool area to break into because it might be a little bit easier to land a job in Java right now.
Um, Next question, and then I want to talk about women tech influencers. But before that, what is your favorite piece of tech? Like way beyond the languages, but I know you've been talking about chairs and keyboards and stuff like that in the past. What's your favorite piece of tech right now?
Maybe cameras. I
All right,
mean, like, oh, you mean like gadgets, like tech gadgets?
tech, whatever. Yeah, tech gadgets. Yeah, tech gadgets is good.
Okay, well, my Mac will always be my
Oh yeah,
favorite. Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. I have a MacBook Air, but I have the 2022 one, I believe.
Mhm.
Or I think it was 2023. I think it was, yeah, yeah, yeah. That's my favorite piece because I'm on it all the time. I have an amazing setup. I have two amazing Dell monitors, a cool PC, and a lot of times I just prefer being on my laptop. So,
Okay, so we're 5 minutes away from the end of the hour, and I want to talk about women in tech. That's a topic you and I talked about a while ago when we were partnering with Google. I remember you're one of the vocal women in tech and women in tech influencers.
Yes.
Um, what's your experience like, and where do you see tech evolving, and the place of women in it? Tech in general, women in tech in general, but also women in tech influencers, which is another group altogether in a sense.
Yeah. So 4 years ago, women made up 6% in software engineering. Um, Now, women make up 22% in software engineering. It's still a very low number, but I can see there's a very vast progression. I think we're
30% at Nucamp, by the way. So we're doing our best.
no, that's great. That's amazing. I think um, maybe before there was like an intimidation factor for women to go in because it is a little bit more of a male oriented field. I know that I remember when I used to take my classes, um, it was a lot of guys. I was most of the time just the only girl, or there was me and another girl,
Mhm.
another woman. Sorry. And it is a little bit intimidating just because you want to kind of live up to some expectations, or you want to um, just relate to certain people, students in your class and stuff. So it can be a little bit difficult. But I feel like we're progressing a lot, and there's a lot of companies that are really making their environment friendly towards diversity. And I think there's certain things that need to be adjusted. Obviously, there's a lot of women programming jokes in X that are a little bit not appropriate. But it's fine. I think we're progressing more and more, and that's the important thing, is that there is an advancement of women getting involved in the field. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how you look, or what you are, your gender. It just depends on your merit. So I think there's a huge progression in the field for women.
I've been surprised personally, um, as we were going through our collaboration, and as we were just doing our ads, right? And so using Megan video, or actually maybe using a picture of a woman to advertise the women scholarship that we have. I was amazed at the level of sexism that was related to how beautiful a woman was, and pretty much the more beautiful the woman was, the more men will dismiss that that person was actually in tech or computer science. Like, they could not equate that women could be at the same time elegant, beautiful, and a tech expert. Do you see that? Do you experience that type of preconception that, hey, because of the way you look, there's no way you can be in tech, pretty much?
I think there's a lot of beautiful women out there that are very well educated, and it's just in different fields. I just decided to join computer science. Thank you, by the way, for the compliment. I decided to do computer science because that's just something that I was more oriented towards. I love the idea of critical thinking and logic. So for me, it was just an easy choice. I do face that a lot of times, but I think I've adjusted myself very easily with it. Um, Obviously, it's not easy for anyone that's a woman going in, because there is this predisposed idea that they're not going to be as good. um, but you just shouldn't let it bother you. When you're exposing yourself online, you're going to get that regardless of if you are a man, or if you're a woman, or if you're attractive, or for any social standards. It doesn't matter. You're going to get attacked in some area. People have chosen to attack me in that specific area. But if anything, I just keep going, and I keep proving myself. It's just trolls. They're just people that are anonymous.
And I've also seen women in tech influencers being very proud of their looks and actually baiting and playing around it, and being super proud of just being, bringing those two elements together.
Of course, yeah,
Um,
women need to take care of themselves. I
yeah.
mean, I'm not gonna be. not taking care of myself or be unhygienic while I'm in the field, because the field shouldn't be related to being unhygienic or anything. I'm just a woman and I program and everything, of course, but I'm also a woman and I have women tendencies. I like to keep myself very hygienic and very well taken care of, physically. So I think that's just part of who I am. It doesn't involve anything with my merit.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I must say that sometimes the level of aggression that we see in those ads is just out of this world. Like, it's really
Yeah.
surprising to me how, men, of course, can be triggered because of that combination of, talent and looks. And it's just, yeah, it's really disturbing sometimes. But I'm glad it's um, you're managing it well, and everybody else is as well. Okay, last thing you would like to say to the audience. So, these are people who are, most of them probably are in new camp. They're going through that journey. They want a better life at the end. Some of them actually are wondering, should we join? Everyone has in mind the headlines of, the tech industry is not doing as well. What would you like to tell them, with regard to the journey that they're on, and their hopes of a career in tech?
Of course. Well, I'd like to also bring some comfort into the situation. If you're somebody that is self-taught or doing boot camps and you're worried about, oh, because you don't have a degree in computer science, you're not going to be able to compete with people who are applying with one. I've graduated with a lot of students, people who have not been able to land a job and they have a computer science degree. Because at the end of the day, it's not about having a degree. It's not about that. It has to do with your merit. It has to do with your work, and it has to do with strategy. The tech market goes up and down
Mhm.
consistently. Right now we're at a down. It's going to go up again. It'll be fine. But it's important to address the state that it's in right now. It's not in the best state because we've had layoffs before very recently, and also there's roles that are being terminated. But that's just how the market is. It goes up and down. In the moment it's down, and that doesn't mean that people aren't hiring. People are hiring. You just have to approach the application in a different way. You can't just apply with the resume anymore. You
Mhm.
have to do things that are going to attract recruiters to you. So do something different. Apply with a cover letter, apply with recommendation letters. I like the idea of people, like I personally have applied with work samples.
Mhm.
So I've done like software documentations and I've applied with those, and those are very, very helpful. So apply with some work samples, apply with don't just put in your when they ask for your LinkedIn link, don't just put in your LinkedIn and that's it. Put other social platforms where you're starting to network, where you're starting
Yeah.
to build in public, and you're going to see a huge difference in the way that you're applying. And then keep your head up and don't stop applying. You're gonna get a lot of rejections. I've seen a lot of people on Twitter talk about it, that they're sad, they feel discouraged because there's a lot of rejections, but that's part of the process. And you're going to hit that one good job that was meant for you, and you will never regret applying to 50 different applications. So keep your head high and don't stop applying and approach things the right way.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Megan, Amber, um, for joining us today. Really, really appreciate. Thank you for collaborating with us, and sharing your experience with the audience. We'll see you soon on Twitter and YouTube. Hopefully, maybe you'll get to produce another video. Uh, and everyone, thank you. Thank you for joining. Take care.